please join me. Thank you very much. I think we are all here. 100% attendance. Move on to public comment. This is for items that are not on the board agenda for today. People can address the issue they like, which is in the purview of this board. I will ask you to just keep your talk limited to 3 minutes. 3 minutes, I will ask you to wind it up and so be respectful and get that done. So, moving on to public comment. Anybody like to begin? In the room? Is there any public comment online? No public comment online. Move on to item 3, consent agenda. There are items that are routine, non-controversial, and be acted on board at one time. Board may request that any item be removed for later discussion. Board have any items on consent that they would like to have?
Make a motion for 3A, B, C, and E.
Well, a quick public comment on this item. Very well. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries 4-5-0. We will move on. Item 3D.
Question.
Stacy,
General manager, and that is first person is going to leave with pay.
Can't talk much about HR specific issues here in open session,
Oh, okay. All
but
right.
it is approved.
I got it. I need it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I make a motion.
Second.
motion is second. Is there any public comment on this item? No public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries 5-0. Run to item 4. Item 4A, discussion action regarding updating wastewater capacity fees for La Contenta. This is a public hearing. I am now formally opening a public hearing. Kevin?
Good afternoon, directors. So this is the discussion and action about the La Contenta capacity fees. So this, we have Sean from HDR Online. He's the one that helped us develop these capacity fees study for these fees. So it's based on the master plan document that was approved by your board last year. And so as we're looking at trying to make sure that development pays for the cost of the development. So Sean, why don't you take us from here?
Will do. Thank you. Can everybody hear me this afternoon?
A little rough. Want to try again,
Uh,
Sean?
Yeah, does it sound any better?
That's worse. Get your volume up.
So this is as best as it's going to get. I apologize. I'm actually sitting in an airport.
All right.
I will walk through this. We'll quickly go over the purpose of the presentation, review the capacity charge and the methodology, and then provide the update to the analysis. So the purpose here is to update the La Contenta capacity charge based on the revised master plan and additional capital projects that are needed. As we go through this, looking for feedback and input from the board to finalize this study and move this forward for implementation. And we developed this study using generally accepted methodologies, but based on the specific customer and system characteristics of the La Contenta wastewater system. And again, this is an update to what we did in the prior study about 4 years ago, I believe it was. So a capacity charge is a charge to new customers desiring service on the district system. And it's based on the value of that capacity. And that's the key analysis here, is putting a value to that capacity that new customers will use. And ultimately, this is a policy decision by the board to have growth pay for growth for those cost of the infrastructure necessary to serve new customers. Part of this is the capacity fees are restricted for growth-related capital projects or debt service. So this is not an O&M discussion. This is really an infrastructure capital discussion and how do we maintain equity between existing and new customers for the cost of infrastructure to serve new customers. So here's a summary of the current La Contenta wastewater capacity charge. As I mentioned, that was updated in 2022. District staff have been updating this since that time based on generally accepted methods. You see the categories in the table below. Single family is a weighting factor of 1 for $15,902. Mobile home parks, et cetera, those are all calculated based on 0.7. Apartments are 0.55, as are accessory dwelling units. And so you can see those are based on a proportion of a single family, which is how this is typically handled to reflect the capacity of those customers. Commercial or all other customers are based on the demand table and charge the appropriate capacity charge based on one EDU and their demands on the system. As we go through this, it's based on existing capacity and the value of that capacity in the current system, plus future capacity and infrastructure needs to serve those new customers. And that provides the maximum allowable. So when we take a look at the existing infrastructure, we bring that up to today's dollars based on the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index. And then we back out any credits, any contributions, debt service principal, which were not part of the current La Contenta system funding approach. We then look at those future projects, what's needed to serve new growth, and what portion of those projects are there to reflect growth going forward. This is based on an ESFU, an equivalent single family unit, and that's how we calculate the capacity charge. As we mentioned, looking at those system planning criteria, it's based on the master plan that determines that ESFU. And then we looked at the capital improvement plan and those projects out of the master plan that are necessary to serve customers. As I mentioned, there is no outstanding debt. We developed these using generally accepted principles, but to meet the requirements of California Code 66,000, specifically 66,013, 16, and 22. Bottom line here, a very simplified version of that code is that the fees must be reasonably related and attributable to the cost of infrastructure and improvements made necessary to serve new development. So not mathematically exact, but ultimately reflect the cost to provide service. The capital improvement plan was outlined in the master plan update. In total, there's 36.4 million of projects that were related to growth, were identified as capital improvement needs. Of that, only 23.4 million is providing additional capacity. So you can see these projects below, the total cost, the percent capacity related, and then the proportion that's included in the development of the capacity charge. So looking at the information in the master plan, working with staff, coming back to say what portion is eligible to be included and provides additional capacity on the system. So the math here, how this works out here is we take our existing infrastructure brought up to today's dollars. That's this top piece. We have our existing infrastructure for land improvements other than buildings, treatment, collection, and contributions you can see as a negative. We divide that by the existing and future equivalent units to come up with the current infrastructure costs. We then look at our future capital, that 23.4 million. We divide that through by our future customers that are connecting and that this infrastructure can serve to come up with that total value of 15,737. There's also the administration / operations building that's split between the different water and wastewater systems for the district. And we divide that by the total number of equivalent units served for a total of $225. So the calculated maximum capacity charge for La Contenta is $21,719.
So on the schedule of capacity charges, Schedule A, that 27,719 is a typo.
I'm not sure which page you're referring to, sorry.
The Schedule A capacity charges.
Yeah, we had a typo on it. It was 21, not 27.
Yeah, so this table is reflecting, I think, a different table. My table here that I'm sharing is the 21,719.
We got that figured out.
So comparing here, the current and the proposed, you can see the change in one ESFU versus the 0.7, 0.55 as part of that. So increase of just over $5,000, and then $3,000 for the smaller units as we go forward based on the maximum allowable. So this capacity charge determines the reasonable relationship between the impact of development and the charge to be imposed. So that reflects the AB 66,000, the Mitigation Fee Act, and how we need to develop these fees. The updated charge reflects the current costs and the current value of capacity and those future infrastructure needs. And again, an adopted capacity charge should not exceed the maximum calculated as part of this study. But as a matter of policy, the district could adopt a charge, anything charged less than this. However, if you did not charge the maximum calculated charge, that implies a sharing between of growth-related costs between existing customers and new customers. So with that, I will turn it back over to Kevin to wrap this up, but just looking for any board feedback or input, and then we will finalize this fee and move forward.
Okay, just to kind of recap what was said, the current fee is $15,902. The proposed fee is $21,719, which is a $5,817 increase. So this is where it's a one-time charge. They'll be applied to somebody's building a new home, new apartment, or that type of thing. So there'll be a one-time charge. And so this is the total amount or the maximum amount that we're allowed to increase it by based on the calculations. And staff recommends that we raise it to that amount. That way we ensure that growth is paying for growth, that we're not putting costs on our existing ratepayers for the projects that we have upcoming in our CIP. We're also working on some grant applications for some of the infrastructure that's included in this capacity fee study. So if we do get those grant funds, it could potentially reduce this capacity charge in the future.
Questions, Kevin? When did we raise current capacity charge to 15,000? I know too, was that quite a while ago?
It was 4 years ago, and then since then we've done the design on the La Contenta wastewater treatment plant, the Huckleberry lift station design. We got new engineers estimates for that. We also had some new developments come along. So we believe this is the right time to make these adjustments because we have accurate costs on what this infrastructure is going to cost.
Also curious, how does this compare to other capacity charges in the bills?
Well, it all depends on the areas. They're very diverse. Sometimes, yeah, I'm not sure how it compares to it, but I know that we're in the range of some other people. I don't have those numbers.
Question. Any other questions on the board? Yes.
Well, I think we talked a little bit about it. But when the accessory dwelling unit, I mean, you can build a 1,200 square foot ADU, right? Basically
Yes.
a single family house. But I think we talked about trying to come up with a square footage. Because the ADU, I mean, is that correct? That you can go up to 1,200 square feet? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's a 3-bedroom house. It's gonna use the same. On the other hand, you can also do a 400 square foot ADU, which is going to be a 1-bedroom. What we're really talking about is most of these ADUs going to have 1 or 2 people in it. So I'm just wondering if we ever really took a good look at trying to bring that
Yeah,
Instead of giving those things names, let's talk square footage.
that's something we're actually working on right now is the revised ordinance for the ADUs. We're gonna bring that back to the engineering committee hopefully in May. There's a lot to, there's multiple different legislations, top legislations. So unpacking all those items and trying to make sure we're equitable is challenging, especially the way we calculate this. We don't do EDUs based on, or ESFUs based on square footage. So there's some challenges there. Try to get that, make sure it's meets all the requirements of the laws and rules and that type of stuff.
So, but then we can revise this down the road.
I think we're proposing to kind of redefine the EDUs that we have, or ADUs within the county. Like what size do they get charged the full capacity fee? That's what we're looking at.
At that same engineering committee meeting, I seem to recall that the way you would approach that currently is that anything over 850 square feet ADU would be subjected to the full connection charge. Is that right?
I believe that's correct.
I don't think that. The other thing that is very problematic about this is that under the commercial note here about that it's subject to the demand table. And I have long labored mentally over how we can take some little strip mall and have 4 offices, and each office has a 1 toilet and 1 sink, no showers, no washer, dryer, nothing. And the demand table, do you happen to have the demand table? I think that if my memory serves me correct, that we charge like 2 or 2.5 times the equivalent single family unit for any commercial development. I think that that's wrong. It ought to be addressed.
Okay. Yeah, the minimum is 1 EDU for a commercial building, so that's our minimum. And beyond that, we have a demand table.
But you see, the thing that I'm struggling with is if you have an apartment, you pay 55% of the single family rate. And where is the rationale for charging any commercial application a full hookup charge whenever they have only less than what you would expect to have in an apartment?
Okay. Yeah, we can bring that back to the engineering committee as far as how we calculate that in details. But as far as this is just for the actual capacity fee dollar amount. So whatever the capacity fee is for the commercial, they would pay the same rate. So if we adjust the percentage that we charge for capacity fees, it'll be proportional to this. So it's a separate discussion, but I definitely see the connection that you're talking about. But as far as establishing how many ESFUs or EDUs a commercial account is, then that would correlate to these dollar amounts. But I see what you're saying. If we go depending on the amount they use, water and sewer.
Well, I can remember when this came up a couple of years ago that it was based on how many fixtures there are in this commercial development, and I can kind of see where it would be justifiable if you have a 30 table restaurant, that it ought to be significantly higher than a single family restaurant.
Yeah.
Or single family dwelling. But I don't know, when would we likely have this discussion at the coming engineering meeting?
Our agenda for the May meeting is pretty full already, but we can maybe do it for the one after the May meeting, July.
Okay, and the reason I bring this up is I feel like that we're in a way we're shooting ourselves and the county in the foot by creating what I would call an impediment to growth.
Got a couple questions too, and they kind of go to Russ's point, we were talking before. Protect, enhance, and develop Calaveras resources. We need to keep things moving here, development. My questions are, though, in the presentation, we always talk about, and this talks about the maximum allowed. So what's the minimum?
Well, I guess it's up to the board, but like we said, if this is calculated based on where our wastewater treatment plant right now is at capacity, we have these very expensive improvements that we have to make. And a lot of that is being driven by these developments. So in order to build the infrastructure we need to support these developments that we already have MOUs with, this infrastructure needs to be built. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to pay for this. And so we thought that this is a good time to make sure that the developers pay their fair share of the improvements that need to be made to the infrastructure to support the developments that they're building. We're not asking for any more money than what it costs. We're just asking for what it costs to make these improvements. And when we're going through the design, we're trying to be as minimal as possible. We could drive that cost down, but still have a treatment plant that's reliable and lasts a long time.
This isn't the maximum we're allowed to charge. This is the maximum we're allowed to charge by law.
Yes.
And I guess, I'm sure we're trying to make it. I just don't want to charge maximum just because we can.
No,
Make
this
sure we're
maximum is
charging what it
based.
costs.
You can only charge them what actually your estimate is. So going through a very detailed master planning process, we had an outside cost estimator come in and double check our numbers, make sure that we're as accurate as possible on these numbers. Then we had HDR do this capacity study to make sure that we're in line with all the rules and regulations of the state.
Why is the administrative building part of our charge to this and not O&M? It's admin.
It's capacity for, we have, every time you bring on new connections, there's more equipment, maintenance trucks and that type of stuff that we need to have in facilities to maintain that infrastructure.
Where are we going to build this?
It's capital.
Where are we going to build this new admin building?
Some of that is admin infrastructure, like new offices in here, or it might be technology that we need as we grow, that we accommodate that, and we do have asset, so to speak.
Seems like an O&M type thing. Yeah.
This building's paid off.
Building is paid off, but we need more offices. So we're out of bid and isn't it, which is a capital cost.
My next question is, in the resolution itself, we ask for, it's got an automatic increase without board approval every year according to the Bay Area Construction Cost Index. So this prices will go up without ever coming back to this board again, according to this resolution.
Yeah, all of our capacities do that every year. So we do it by the ENR construction cost index. So every single year in July, we update all our capacity fees by the same percentage across the board. That's because our cost of these projects is based on today's cost. As time goes on, these capital improvements are going to be more expensive. So we can't rely on, if the fees were initiated, it's at today's dollar cost. It's not at 5 years from now when we're building this infrastructure. The developers have to pay into this now so we can build. I think it's in our CIP for 2 years from now.
My concerns are, you add this increase to the next item, or engineering item, we're getting close to $46,000 fees to hook up a $500,000 property, according to the charts. So I'm just worried that we're putting our thumb against getting new development. I know we have to cover our costs. Just want to find a way that we can get.
Yeah, we're looking at grants right now to pay for this infrastructure. So we're doing everything we can to find out outside funding sources to pay for this. But it wouldn't be fair to, in my opinion, to not have all these developers come in and build us infrastructure, and then we're stuck with a treatment plant that's at capacity that we can't pay for to upgrade it to handle that new customers.
I guess I'm just want to find a way that we don't have to stick it to the developers who we need here to do these things. Figure out creative ways to get them to get hooked up, build stuff.
I don't think we're sticking it to the customers. I think this is what
No, not
the
customers.
costs are. developers are.
Just
That's what
thinking,
it costs to do work.
we have a lot down in La Contenta and I want to build $500,000 home. Going to charge me, these two things combined, $50,000 hook up and review.
Yeah, we're looking at $23 million capacity related improvements that need to be made down there at a treatment plant that's, 30 years old and it's, it's in poor condition. So their existing ratepayers are going to have to pay for the rehab of existing biolax, and new ratepayers are going to have to pay for the expansion of it. I mean, it's just it's a staggering cost. These wastewater treatment plant projects are really expensive. We have a small customer base, so it's unfortunate, but that's what it costs to upgrade these treatment plants.
But the next item, that's, you just have an
Clarify that more next week. All right, well, and so you're telling me that all of our fees automatically get increased every year. So what we're doing
Yeah.
is a catch-up.
Yeah, all the capacity fees just don't, not any more than the engineering news record, CCI index. It's published every year for construction cost index that we've subscribed to. It gets increased by that. If it's 2% a year, 2% last year, they'll increase those by 2%. So that's how you have to keep up with. I mean, otherwise we'd have to do these capacity fee studies every single year to, readjust it. So it's better just to have it where it automatically follows what the construction costs are for these improvements.
Make sure we share the sheep, slaughter it. Project go. That's
Yeah.
all I've got.
Yeah, I'm prepared to make a motion on this
All
item.
right, I got to close it. Get to public comments. All right.
I do have a comment.
Go ahead.
I do have a comment on the ADU discussion. I've been asking for this for a couple of years, brought before the board and updated. I know we have one. And you said May. Then you also said that May's pretty busy already. Is it already on the May agenda for the engineering committee, or is it coming to the engineering committee first?
No, I think we were talking about July engineering.
July?
That was,
And that's this is going to sneak up on us and we're not going to be prepared.
Oh, did you say?
so
Sorry, I'm getting two different items.
the ADUs was the May. We already have that drafted up. The July, I was proposing for the commercial accounts, and they have multiple meters. And the
And that's
capacity
something
charge.
Russ was asking
Yeah.
about. I've been asked about ADUs for, again, a couple of years. We've just been discussing it. Local government committee in Aqua, and every year it comes up. It's hitting a lot of districts hard. Their state of California is discussed earlier, has all kinds of new laws encouraging, and at the county level, there's no way of fighting back against it. We're going to start having many houses on properties already hooking up to our sewer system, and what are we going to be? What are we going to be doing about it? What is our policy when that happens? I don't know. It's not affecting us right this minute, but that is going to be something I'd rather be.
Yeah, we had a discussion, I think about 6 months ago at the engineering committee, and then we brought it back because we found there's multiple different layers of rules and regulations. So there were some inaccuracies in it, so we plan on bringing it back to this next engineering committee.
One more quick question on ADU. Sorry. Are separate meters required for ADUs? Like, you can use tee off a household line and avoid these charges if you're putting an ADU on your own property?
It depends on the size of the existing home, the size of the ADU, depending on it. In most cases, a small ADU in a normal size house, the regular meter would work. We'll bring that back. The sewer's a little bit different than that.
Some ADUs are within the same unit.
Yeah, those.
Same footprint. Other ADUs. All add.
Which would be part of
Just bring it up. We're using gallons per day, is it 190 gallons per day? Is that what we're basing the?
Yeah, that's our current standard, and we might bring that back for some revisions. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I mean, do we have any new data regarding that?
Yeah, in La Contenta, we did the INI study there, so we got some accurate numbers there. And it was closer to 165 gallons a day.
That
And
makes
then we're doing,
that makes a big difference. That could drop this thing $4,000.
well, that's not, yeah, well, that's not going to change the single family residence. It would change,
It will
How quick-
changes, it changes how many people, how much capacity there will be. How many, but if that number is
Yeah.
shrinking and people are, I mean, modern homes use less water. All the fixtures are made differently. So, I mean, that's something we have to keep.
yeah,
Does that
we're,
make sense to everybody? I mean, that needs to be addressed. There may be more capacity, if that number at 160.
we're already over the 195 number. Like, we use that, we're already over capacity. So, but we're living in that margin between the 160 and 195 right now. So we're already, if you use the 195, our La Contenta treatment plant's already over capacity. That's why we're, if you
Right,
use-
but I want to use the reality.
yeah. So we're somewhere where we got like about 30 EDUs, and we got developers are coming in with 300 plus EDUs. So this is something that needs to happen.
Kevin, we've had some good luck with bids lately, in the last 6 to 9 months or so. Projects are coming in millions of dollars under the engineer's estimates. So if we're having that good luck, how is it justifiable to apply across the state average of production costs? I get it.
Well, we're seeing in the last, I guess our numbers, our engineer's estimate have gone up a lot in the last few years based on that same number. We use the engineer's news record to come up with our engineer's estimates. So if the cost of construction is going up, our engineer's estimates go up, and our projects come in close to the engineer's estimate because we know what the market costs are. That's why I don't think that it's necessarily good luck, because I mean, if you took the same project you bid 10 years ago, it would have come in lower than our number now, but because especially over the last 5 years, costs have gone up. I mean, you see it in everything. I mean, plywood, wood, concrete. I mean, concrete, 10 years ago, it's doubled in price in the last 10 years. I mean, everything's cost more. I mean, ductile iron pipe is doubled in cost also. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's gone up. Labor costs have gone through.
So there's no territorial or area pluses or minuses?
Yeah, we have contingency that we build into our estimates, but as the design gets further along, now we're at 90% design, so we're pretty confident at our numbers. But as your contingency goes down, and then we haven't to apply escalators to projects. They're 2 or 3 years down the line, and that's been accounted for.
Okay.
The public hearing, public comment. Please stick to the 3-minute rule if you can. Ralph, come on up. We don't start the clock till you're ready to go.
Afternoon, Ralph Copeland, Copperopolis. I'd just like to remind the board, ADUs are important in Calaveras County for 2 reasons. One, we have an extremely awful housing shortage. So that offers homes, rentals for new families, and also would help the landowner put some money in his pocket. And also, as I see the board of directors and myself, we're all baby boomers and we're getting older.
Wait a minute.
And
I don't like being with all these.
you're a kaboomer. So anyway, the parents and so forth, rather than putting them in homes, possibly it's more economical to build a smaller home and put your parents up there, and then eventually use it as a rental or a mother-in-law. Thank you.
Is there any other further public comment in the room? Any comment online? I see one hand up. Francisco, you have 3 minutes.
Well, my comment has to do more with the technical aspects of remote attendance. You guys have been in and out so much that I missed maybe about 30% about what everybody speaks, and I don't know if there's anything that can be done about it so that I don't have to drive 30 miles to be live. Were you aware that you are breaking up considerably more than you used to when one tries to remote in?
Francisco,
Yeah,
is
we're-
that it? Where,
We're aware there's an issue.
excuse
We're
me,
working
yeah.
on it.
you can, we're aware, Francisco. Continue
Uh,
your question.
That was it. I mean, how long do you think it'll take so we can rely on the ability to participate fully informed rather than partially hearing this, that, and the other, and up, that sort of stuff?
We will, we as a board will try to speak in our microphones clear. Thank you very much. Is there other comments online? All right, I am closing the public hearing. Bringing it back to the board for the discussion of the motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt this ordinance, amending ordinance 03 to revise the La Contenta wastewater capacity charge following.
Second.
A motion is second. As a hearing, should we do a roll call? Public hearing. Do it.
Director Robertson, Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Garamendi.
Yes. Very well. Thank you all very much. We'll move on to item 4B. It's a discussion action regarding adoption of developer deposit fees for plan review, environmental review, and inspection inspections. This is a public hearing. I am now opening the public hearing. Evan, it's all yours.
So here, we're here today to talk about developer deposit fees. So we wanted to update the structure on which we collect deposits from developers or construction projects. It'll be accepted by the district. So currently, our policy is a $5,000 deposit, which is often insufficient and gets exhausted very quickly. You have to keep coming back to the developer, and many times we end up spending money before we have the deposit as a result. We've had to like stop projects until the developer can't do any more work till we get more deposit, because we're only allowed to take $5,000 at a time. Some of these projects are $7-8 million projects that developers are doing now, and $5,000 deposit doesn't get us very far for the engineering review, the environmental studies, inspection services. We're not asking for any more money from the developer. We're just asking to get more of it up front so that we can use that money as a deposit, and we collect as we go along. And we can make sure that we have sufficient money to complete the project. So this is, once again, this is like a cost recovery measure. It's not revenue generator. We're not asking for any more than what it costs. And we ensure that existing customers are not subsidizing the developments. So if we use money that's not deposited, then we'd have to basically be using money from funds and get reimbursed. It improves transparency and predictability for developers. The developers now have an outline of the approximate cost that it's going to cost them for us to do the inspection, for us to review the drawings, for us to do the environmental studies of lead agency. There's a lot of costs. Some of these environmental studies cost, $50, $60, up to $100,000, and we need right now we can only collect $5,000 deposit. So the ask today is to approve the table that's in your board agenda packet based on a percentage of the cost that we collect from the developers.
Questions from the board?
I'll just say the write-up was great, very clear.
Yes.
When you talk about upfront, I mean, when they walk in the door with a request or.
No, there's different portions of the work. So like the review would be it's broken down to 3 pages in the board packet. So it would be
And we're
It's
just,
not until we get to construction that we collect the.
all we're
the
talking
inspection.
about is the value of the infrastructure.
Yeah, so we talk about the value of the infrastructure, because that's kind of the numbers that we have to rely on, historical cost, and a lot of the agencies do similar calculations, take deposits. And then if we take a deposits more than the actual money we spend, we return that balance to the developer. They won't be out of pocket any more than they would be now.
Yeah, Kevin, let's look at the lowest, example there at 500,000. Am I to understand that you would expect them to pay at the onset the review fee and the inspection fee?
No, they would just pay the review fee. So if they got completed drawings that we have to go through and review, we just be charging 2% of that of the design cost for that project. Then we have 3% for the inspection fee. So if it's $1 million pump station, we like 3% of that. That would cover our inspector to go out there, maybe 4 hours every other day or whatever it is to cover his cost. And we have a lot of electrical integration costs that come along with these projects. So we have to do SCADA integration these projects. We have to inspect the pipeline periodically to make sure that it's being backfilled properly. And the developers, lots of times they may have their own inspectors or their own more general inspector that's inspecting the whole site. They're not tuned with what waterworks inspectors need, like development.
Well, I just want to make sure you talked about environmental studies and whatnot, but if a developer came in and he's got his eye on a piece of property, he's thinking that he might build some kind of a widget factory or something. But if the property is already zoned and we already have facilities in the ground, this must be predicated on thinking about something that requires pipelines and.
So yeah, it depends if we're the lead agency. So subdivision, approved subdivision, they're building a house on there would no be environmental studies on our part. It would be for say they're building a force main from Coppertown Square down to the CV golf course, and they want to put a new force main in. We're the lead agency on that project. We had to do the environmental studies on that. If you're in La Contenta, they're putting a force main down Vista del Lago across Highway 26. We're the lead agency on that. So we have to do the environmental review. We spend the cost and then we take away from the deposit.
Why, I mean, how big a problem is this? I mean,
It's a huge
we're,
problem.
because we're asking people to write $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 checks to get to good morning. I'm just curious, how big a problem? You say it's a big problem. Break that down. Help me understand it.
Well, we got several development projects. We got CV development. We're building Reed's Turnpike pump station. We already gave them the cost estimate. They're in line with these cost estimates. They have to they're working on the BOLD program. They have to finance these projects up front. So they have to know what our cost is so they can finance these projects. Same with the developers down in La Contenta. They need to know what our costs are so that they can build that into their budget. When they go through the BOLD program, also they get reimbursed for the cost that we're spending these projects. So for the big developments that we have, it's very difficult to collect money and stop a project from doing any more reviews without additional deposits. I mean, you're talking, we've had to go back to these developers multiple times and ask for $5,000 at a time. Then we review one plan sheet and we tell them they're out of money. You need to come give another deposit. Problematic for us.
Yeah, and without naming any names, we have had situations where an applicant is in arrears and we're now kind of in the collection business on work that we were doing kind of on their behalf. And so that to me is to Kevin's point, we're not increasing the cost here. We're not asking them to pay more. We're just making sure that we're protecting our resources and our work effort is funded as it goes.
Guess I'm just wondering why we would do work why would we get ahead of the checks?
Well,
Why
that's
we get
what we're
upside
trying to
down?
that's what we're trying to change.
But isn't that us? Our job?
Right, but if we can only collect $5,000 at a time, right? So that's what we're just trying to get larger deposits up front. Not that it's going to cost more, but that so we can make sure that we're not in that situation. I think developers generally appreciate that too, so that we're provide them with some more certainty. They know what the work is that we're doing, and we're not having to haggle over who's or what the status of the payment is.
Seems like a lot of money to put up front. Another question I've got is in this, our deposits are our employees' hourly pay rate multiplied by 2.5, which includes all kinds of overhead. Is that fair? I mean, we're charging for one person for the work, one person's doing it. We're charging 2.5. Is 2.5 a fair multiplier?
Yeah, that's just their base hourly rate, and then we multiply that by 2.5. So
Right.
that's the benefits, the truck that they drive out there. It's all the administrative stuff in here that we have to do to send an invoice or back out the deposit. There's a lot of stuff that's involved that included in that cost.
I think that's fair, and I think that's in line with industry standard.
We're still
Seems like a lot. Is that legally defensible? I mean,
Yeah,
still-
we've
we have
never
to
had any
defend
pushback
this.
from developers on that. I think that's fairly standard.
well, that's a different question.
Yeah, this just seems like cleanup. I mean, if we're getting behind and we're having developers who are working with us and we're charging them the timing of what we charge them, I don't think it makes that much difference. And if there are developers who aren't paying us on time or paying us upon request, it's kind of silly. Go back with $5,000 when they actually owe $30,000-$40,000 already and already behind. I see this as a cleanup item. It probably should have been more earlier when it was first developed, and should have been upgraded as costs go on and our involvement in projects increases. And it might even be, I mean, if every single construction project was exactly the same, we probably wouldn't need to be doing this with percentages. But I can see huge projects coming by, and I know that they're going on right now. And if we're not collecting as we go along, I can see projects going under and never being able to collect at all. It just seems like a intelligent thing to do to keep up with our policies, and that's what we do here at the board level. It's update our policies. I think that's all that we're doing. And aligned with for better for district and for the developer. A lot of transparency going on here, but tell them up front what their total costs are going to be and asking for that money up front. Most likely, you've already got the funding for it, so the bank can make money on it, just pass it on. So we can cover our costs as we go. Seems like the right thing.
Anybody else?
Well, I'm just trying to think. Scott just said that they have the money sitting in the bank. It's not always the case. So what we have developed here in Calvert County is several of these. You pretty much have to be a corporation to develop property. That's why you don't see any mom and pop coffee shops or anything like that, because it's so burdensome up front. It's not just our fault, but it is partly our fault, and all that money has to come up front. Maybe just like start your house, start you over years that you don't need to pay the sewer fee until you're ready to move into the house. That's substantial. So anyway, I just want to remind everybody that all the stuff that we do like this is just invites corporations only to be in Calaveras County.
So yeah, it's not the project cost, it's the project to put the sewer lines in the ground, it's the cost to put the water lines in the ground. It's not if somebody's doing development, we're not asking for that percentage of the whole development. We're just asking for the
I understand
the water
value-
sewer
the value of
infrastructure.
the infrastructure.
It could be they're building a huge subdivision, maybe they're the water and sewer's $200,000. We're asking for percentage of that. We're not asking for the percentage of the $7 million to build the development.
Questions from the board? This is a public hearing. Is any public comment on this item in the room? Oh, come on down.
Ralph Copeland, Copperopolis. I just would like to say I'm all for the fee. I was just curious, what were the fee charges before, or is this something new?
So we've always had a policy of recovering costs for development
Okay,
from the developer.
what percentage increase is this 2 years?
It's not an increase, it's just increasing the amount of deposit we can require upfront.
Oh, got it.
Currently, they
Okay.
can only take 5,000.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Any public comment online? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Get back to the board. Further questions, discussions, or emotion?
I thought
Motion.
I thought I heard a motion down there.
No, it's not a motion. I just looked up what are the kind of common charges in California. Say 5%. Can be as high as 10%. We're within the ballpark.
Wish we could figure out a way to make it. Killing ourselves. And I know we have to pay for this stuff. Want to get anything built? How do we get to that development stage? I don't know. All right. Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to,
Second, Director Adderman. Becca, will you please call the roll for this hearing?
Director Robertson,
yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Garamendi.
Electionally, yes. Okay. Concludes our public hearing section of the agenda. We'll move on to new business. Item 5A, discussion regarding approval of MOU for the implementation of the Highway 4 Corridor Regional Water Supply Long-Term Water Needs Study. Winkler.
Okay, happy to take this one up and appreciate Jessica Self, the general manager from Union Public Utilities District, being here today. And this has been in the works for a long time. And 2024, each of the participating agencies, so CCWD, UPUD, City of Angels Camp, and Utica Water and Power Authority, all adopted resolutions expressing support for a collaborative effort. And part of that collaborative effort was this regional water supply planning effort. There's other work going on under that umbrella. It also spurred a discussion about emergency response planning and collaboration on that front. And there have been discussions, I think productive discussions on that front as well. But this, I think, was really kind of the core of it. And this has been tried and it has failed before, going back several decades. So I think getting to this point where we have all the agencies on board. In fact, CCWD is now the last of the 4 agencies to consider this resolution. The other 3 agencies have already adopted it within the last week or two, and with a lot of support for the collaborative effort among these agencies, which hasn't always existed the way it is right now, and for the work product that we hope to get out of it. This will help, I think, for all of our agencies plan for the future. You know, what the best way to serve the communities along the Highway 4 corridor, and the best way for us to collaborate with each other, whether that is interties between our distribution systems, or any other ways that we can collaborate with each other, projects that we can carry out together. I think it will be beneficial for all of us to have an outside set of eyes and some expertise to evaluate how we're currently operating and how we might do it better and more efficiently for our customers. So I see a lot of benefit out of this, both in the relationship building and the partnerships itself, but also the work product that will come out of it. And I think the timing is really good also. We wanted to have this done sooner, when that resolution was adopted in 2024, but I think it's fortuitous that we're doing it now. We're on the heels of updating our master plan for the Ebbets Pass service area, and updating the hydraulic model for that service area, which is a huge effort, but will make this work product better. UPUD is also updating their master plan, which will feed into this. City of Angels Camp is doing a study for alternative water supply sources, within their sphere, which will also feed into this. So, and Utica's done a lot of planning work on their side as well. So all of that updated information, our new urban water management plan that we're working on right now, a lot of work that will feed into this, and we'll get a better work product out of it because of all that work that's being done right now. So the proposal here is to enter into an MOU with those agencies that at this point is not binding necessarily on any of the agencies. We've been working on a scope of work for a consultant to come in and do this regional water supply study. We don't have an estimated cost with any precision yet, probably in the ballpark of $100,000, maybe 150, hopefully not, hopefully less than that. But we don't know yet for sure. And so each of the agencies will have another opportunity to review the proposals after they've been submitted and decide whether or not to enter into the contract or not. The MOU, though, if each of the agencies decides to move forward with the work, the MOU would obligate CCWD to pay for half of the cost, and then the Utica member agencies would pay for the other half. And so that's UPUD and Angels Camp splitting the other half. Utica would be the contracting authority, the fiscal agent, and they would contract with the consultant as part of their contribution to the work effort. But it would truly be, we went, out of our way to make sure that this was a really collaborative effort, that there's protections built in for transparency, that no single agency is directing the work effort or directing the consultant, that there'll be transparency for any direction given or correspondence with the consultant, and really trying to make sure that we have buy-in from each of the agencies as we go through this. As I said, there's some sensitive political issues involved with this, and that has led to efforts like this failing in the past. And we want to make sure we get through it, make sure we complete this process and we don't repeat mistakes from the past. So transparency and this collaborative approach has to be a big part of it. So along those lines, I think the GMs of the agencies will continue to function sort of as a work group as we finalize the RFP, we evaluate proposals, and then make a recommendation to each of the boards, the governing boards. And then at that point, though, I think we've had some discussions. It's not in the MOU, so we have some flexibility here. But we've had discussions about the possibility of an ad hoc committee, a board member from each of the agencies, and then the staff reporting back to that committee on a quarterly basis, just as a regular check-in with the governing bodies as we go through this to make sure that all the agencies are still bought in, that transparency exists, that collaboration exists, and we're all doing this in lockstep, which I think is just.
Quick question: Is this supply? I mean, the long-term water needs study. Is it a regulatory requirement?
So there are aspects of that, certainly. Water rights reporting, water rights renewal that we're up against. There are some new requirements for water supply redundancy that this will help us address. This will help with a lot of different regulatory, but they're not one specific.
I'll just add, I went to the UPUD board meeting where this was discussed, and they were strongly in support of it, support costs. So a lot of sense, not a lot of money.
Move to public comment. Action item. Any public comment on a comment? Jessica.
Jessica Self, General Manager at Union Public Utility District. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to review this and be part of the discussions, and Michael and Director Robertson for attending our board meeting. It has been a lot of work, and here we are 2 years later, finally bringing the MOU in boards. Like Director Robertson said, our board is unanimously enthusiastic about moving forward and excited for the next steps. And really, I think time needs to kind of heal some of the issues that have, occurred between agencies, and we all need to move forward together and move collaboratively. And when I think about this MOU and study that's involved, it's all about the community, and there's no boundaries within our community about what is best the long term for water reliability, water quality for the community that we serve. So thank you.
Very much. Is there any public comment in the room? Online? None? Back to the board. Do you want questions or?
I'll move acceptance.
Motion?
Obvious.
Second.
A second. Dr. Robertson, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, 5B. Not an action item. February storm after action report. Damon.
And directors.
Good afternoon, James.
In a while. See y'all.
Get ready for another big storm.
Get ready for the next one.
4 inches is what I hear over here.
Wow.
5 feet of snow for Bear.
Okay. All
Perfect.
right.
Right when the
So
grass
orders
dies.
of magnitude different.
Could you
February
say that?
16th, storm after action review. So, an after action is really kind of focuses on some key questions. Really, when you look at the aftermath, what was expected to happen, what actually happened, what went well, what didn't work, will we sustain, or how can we improve to better address the future, and what are we going to do to adapt or change or refine our work efforts. So before we kind of dive into all the nitty gritty, so to speak, of the storm itself, we did have an internal operations team after action. So this presentation is kind of based on that discussion. And then moving forward, the county is going to have a more broad after action review. Broader perspective with all of their organizations. So diving in, flashing back to February 16th, it was a holiday. There was heavy rain. So really kind of what was happening initially was just a ton of rainfall kind of in the lower end, so to speak. What happens when we anticipate, up to a couple inches of rain overnight, beyond 3, or for a storm, we hear it's going to be heavy rain. The collections crew usually will place those folks on standby. And what the collections crew will do is they will stage pumper trucks that we have and equipment in certain areas where we know we struggle with, our lift stations struggle with the ability to keep up with inflow and infiltration, just stormwater runoff. And usually that's Copperopolis, right? We have 30 plus lift stations. The better part of those are around the lake. So we really want to focus on making sure that we don't have a spill due to a storm. And then up in Arnold, so we can have a rain on snow event in Arnold. The next thing you know, you go from, when it snows normally in a collection system, you're like, okay, great, it's not water. So it's going to sit on the ground and I don't have to worry about it impacting the sewer system. And then when it rains and you melt all that snow, you have a real problem. This one was really interesting is because we were having issues in Vallecito main lift station. If you guys, if you don't know, the lift station's right next to the creek. And so the septic tanks feed the lift station. So we're just dealing with the decant off a septic tank. But a lot of those tanks are near the high water mark of the creek. And so when you have a ton of rain, you have this inflow and infiltration. So even after the storm, late in the evening conversations on February 16th with our teams, it's not raining anymore, but the pumps aren't keeping up in the lift station. So we have to drive our pumper trucks over here to continue pumping out all this water, taking it to the waste plant because the pumps that are inside can't keep up. So that was kind of challenge number one. So we got close. You can see in this next picture, that's the water line right there below the hatch. So we got the pumper truck there just in time. We were having conversations right before the truck was able to get there about we're going to have to report a spill. And so when you do that, triggers a whole host of requirements, right? So you call basically you get a control number from state OES, and then you kind of work your way down through the line. Environmental health, state water board, all that good stuff. Luckily,
infiltration cause.
yeah. I mean, so, and Kevin, we've had this conversation multiple times about the condition of Vallecito wastewater system. It's old. It's hard to inspect. It's hard to clean. And so when you have all of this equipment situated right next to a waterway, you're going to struggle. So this was really, I mean, you can see in the image, that's not a ghost, by the way. I think that is a reflection off the glass of the truck, but it's not raining. So generally what happens when it quits raining and the run-on dissipates, if you have an issue with I&I, you start to stuff out. This carried on for hours. So moving into the 17th, we had a group of folks that had already worked a long day on a holiday. And I'd like to acknowledge we have our construction supervisor, Roger Tyndall, in the room, Bill Heinley, distribution super from the past, and we have a whole host of folks online. So I'm flattered that you guys wanted to get online and talk about the after action review. So good to see you on there. But diving into the 17th, we had a bunch of folks that had already been working their tails off. And so then what we started to see is heavy rain and now heavy snowfall. So we're going into essentially it's a Tuesday, Monday, and we have crews going into work and power is failing. And so we have this kind of long snowfall of long duration, right? And for whatever reason, a lot of the trees were still so much moisture, they just started dropping. And so we had, first thing that we talk about, is access, right? So when we look at the Ebbets Pass, you have Dorrington, the separate section of the system, water supply wise, tanks and pump stations and people. And then we have a 5-mile, roughly long cross-country line going through SPI property to convey water to those people. And that is fed via a pump station. So that's called our sawmill pump station. So that's above Arnold, above White Pine, sits on the mountaintop, pumps water up to Dorrington. So we need to see what's going on there. So during this day, Roger spent most of his time ensuring access to that site. Okay, it's going to snow all day. We need access to that site because if those pumps go south, we're going to struggle. We need to get water. And then we have Bill and his team are just focusing on ensuring access to other locations. Meanwhile, the collections crew is focusing on the lift stations. We need access to the lift station. And this is really all focused on generator review. So when we have a power fail, we're living and dying by the operation of a generator. So if you have a generator operating a lift station and you have inflow and infiltration, and then that thing goes out, your ability to react and respond is diminished in orders of magnitude. So if it took you, it's like, we got a generator fail, we'll get over there in an hour and we'll fix it and we won't spill. In these kinds of situations, it's spilling right now. And so there's this sense of urgency in all the work that this is just a crazy picture. All the work that we do. I mean, just, and this is, what's that? Yeah, chains on, yeah, chains. I think there's chains on. And then, so I want to acknowledge that. So Roger and his team fighting for access, Bill and his team fighting for access, responding to issues, and then the collections crew fighting for access. So this is all day Tuesday, and this is kind of the environment that everybody's working in. And so let me go back really quick. I got to give you a set this. So this is all day Tuesday. We're going into the evening. And so we're trying to get to this generator, get to this site. You know, we have a blip here. We got to go see what's going on. The computer system is telling the treatment operator, hey, there's an issue over here. There's an issue over there. And then Bill gets an indication into the evening, hey, we have a pressure issue, Lake Lawn subdivision. We have a leak somewhere, but we can't get there. There's trees down everywhere. We're going to go try. And so it took all day for the guys to be able to get down to the White Pines barn when they're out in the field. They go down to the barn, there's trees everywhere. They fight for access, cut trees out of the way, get to the barn. Generators failed at the barn. No warming center at the barn. Okay, we're going to leave. It's like 5:30, 6 o'clock. We're going to head home, or we're going to just prep. Something's going to happen. Well, on the way home, we find out that the Lake Mott pump station is struggling to keep up. So this is This is, I would say, is the next day. So 3 in the morning going into Wednesday, I get a call from the sheriff's department. They found the leak, and it was on a cross-country line in between 2 streets on a hill like this. So the reason you're not seeing snow there is because the water washed all the snow away. And what had happened is a tree had fallen over by this house. And pulled the water line out of the ground. So before we were able to even see this, we knew we had a leak. 3 o'clock in the morning, we're on the phone, we're talking to the treatment operator. Treatment operator's like, I can make enough water to keep up. It's basically demand. I can keep up with demand. Now we got to find it. Search and rescue found it. We spent the better part of coming out at 3:30 in the morning getting there to isolate. We also had to understand how many people were affected. So this is just.
Did it cause damage at the source?
So we haven't seen any indication of damage caused at the homes by this water. So it's basically rushing down the hill onto the street, going down the street, and then heading off towards Lake Mons, I believe.
That much water didn't get to the house?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, talk
like
about dodging bullets during this one. And this one's just that picture right there, as you can see the grader. So I want to acknowledge Public Works also. So we're on these morning briefings. Michael's on these briefings. What are the unmet needs? Hey guys, we got a line break and we can't keep up with the snowfall because what was happening is the trees were falling at such a rate. They were pulling power lines down, and the county, Caltrans, and others like us struggled to ensure access with plows because we don't know if that power line that's on the ground is live or not. And so when you get behind the plowing, next thing you know, you can't essentially play catch up when you're skating on a sheet of ice. And so then the county would work with us and say, where do you guys need to go? And so we would work with them to get access to other facilities. And so there you can kind of see the crack of the AC line in the image on the right. And then the kind of the sheeting of water in the image on the left. This one. And so there you go. This is by these pictures, by the way, are days later after we've had a chance to, put all the other things to rest and collect ourselves and get in there and make a repair. I believe that was, yeah.
That water. Ice.
It was water. Yes, right. And so then moving into the next day, Wednesday, we have more of the same. So this is a picture of West Point here. So more of the same, heavy snowfall, heavy rain, extensive power failures. We're working long hours. We've got a support team initiated. And when we did the after action review, this is one of the things we talked about. Like we had folks available to start to relieve our folks who were working 16, 18 hours, dealing with adrenaline and all these different things going on and access issues. But we didn't necessarily have the training of the systems that would allow our folks to just flat tap out. So that's one of the things that we need to work on more is just improving coordination between teams, cross training, so that when we get in these situations of days and days and days, we can think about how we're going to just tap people out and try to give them an opportunity. As you know, if you live in this environment, you've got to go home and you're dealing with a lot of the same issues at home. So you're not really getting rest, but you're able to kind of patch, so to speak. And so that's one of the things that we need to work on. We did get calls from a lot of folks that are mutual, like UPD or Joe called us, which is great. And I would say if we had 2 more days of straight snowfall, we would be initiating because of that fact that we help with bodies. This is a great one. I think you shot this one, Bill. This is just Oh, Nick Albert's truck. Going into town, like there's just a lot. And so we have, if you think about what's going on, is you have all of these different objectives, and I would say that's really one of the kind of the high points of our team is our folks have an ability to prioritize, and we had the mechanics focusing on refueling. We had the utility crew and others focusing on access. We had Bill and his team focusing on welfare. They were having conversations with people all over the place. We, like, hey, you sure you want to stay here tonight? Like, it's probably not a good idea. Like, you don't have any power, and so, and then we had the construction folks, like all of these different folks, serving a purpose within the objective, and it was just super helpful. Like this picture is great. I think this was within 20 minutes of you talking to somebody, and then we made the call to Steve Sturm, and he, like within 20 minutes, this search and rescue vehicle was there full of people out of this place. I'm not sure whose that is. That's a great question. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Got it. Oh, so, this is a long after action review to discuss district's need for a snowcat. Yeah. Gee, did you mention snowcat?
Not on the agenda.
Yeah. So here's the White Pines barn. You can see you have the plow truck situated. And I just wanted that second picture, the guy who cleaned the area off looks great. I mean, it's just like so much. We do have this small unit that we can get up to so we took this up to our Avery tank and pump station in Meadowmont. We got in there with fuel generators. Just some image. These are roads in neighborhoods. Incidentally, I've shared a bunch of pictures and a bunch of video with Aqua and with the Association of Sanitation Agencies. And they're, as you guys know, everybody's working hot and heavy on advanced clean fleets. And they're within the 15-day review of regulations. So 45-day amendments happened, pushed our compliance requirement out to 2030. Everybody else has to, they have a 50% purchase requirement until 2030. So like the EIDs of the world every other truck they buy has to be electric. And so I shared a bunch of this. Power was out in certain areas up here for the better part of 11 days. And I don't know how you operate effectively a bunch of electric trucks in a situation like that.
Hard to charge a truck with them.
Kind of difficult. And there was one video that I sent to
Go around the generator.
we've been told to do that. And they're actually selling them now as mobile charging stations. Just a diesel generator, but it's
a lot.
Yeah. So, so this is like fueling. This is one of the things, like the mechanics, man, hats off to these guys. They don't have a plow on this truck, big old heavy truck, and they're getting in there and they're getting things fueled up in environments like this. And it's just, so this video.
The tree is in front of that truck down there. Be careful, because there's two leaning right here.
Yeah, that was there.
So I sent this to carb staff, like at the airport, and they were just kind of like, because it's real. Like you got to walk through snow because your truck can't get you there, and you're going to tell me this guy needs to walk back to an electric truck. Like this is a great one too.
Don't get me.
I mean, look at it. Look at this. There's trees falling down everywhere. And this is the same walk. This is like the other side of his walk.
One popped. Right after. Yep.
He's been doing this for 2 days, like 16 hours. And so he's going to go jump into a Rivian and, I don't know, slide down the hill back to San Andreas and everything's going to be fine. This is a great one.
Cedar Ridge, you can see the truck. Here comes Tommy. He's going to start plowing. And then we have this tree in the road. And then you can see they did plow it probably yesterday, but he hasn't been keeping up on it. And the generator needs to be filled. So we're going to plow it.
So this is in a subdivision that we've been asked not to plow in order to kind of keep everything. Get to road copacetic. And in these situations, as you can see, that's a wastewater lift station. So that thing runs out of power. So white snow is no longer white. This is a great one.
Right above White Pines. Just right above it. A freaking disaster in here. Crazy.
I mean, the amount of trees, I don't know if you guys have seen, but we've coordinated with the county to let them store material at the ball field White Pines. There's about 9,000 cubic yards of tree material that we've been told will be out of there in a couple weeks. But it's pretty astounding. This is a great one. That's lift station 3. White Pine.
Lift station 3 right here. Roger on the backhoe. School. It's almost 4 feet here. It's crazy.
It's a great one. So he's basically telling us, hey, I got this generator refueled in the middle of a blizzard, but I'm up here refueling it. We're going to stay alive a little bit longer. And then imagine, how you feel when you roll up to the next one, you fight to get there, and T-Mobile's already dropped their emergency cell tower generator in your way, and you can't get to our generator. So these are some of the things that we'll talk to the county about when we have this broader conversation, like who decides, right? So T-Mobile rolls up and drops their generator in our way, and we can't fill the pump station with diesel fuel because we're too far away, and we run out of water supply. This is where the EOC and this coordination is critical. I don't know if I saw any cell folks on any of those calls, but yeah. So this will be one of those ones where we need to bring it to the conversation. Like, hey, cell groups, you guys need to be involved in these conversations.
Road?
This is, the access point to, say, a pump station or lift station. And they're going to, drop their little generator as close to that thing as they can. And, oh, look, somebody just plowed this. Perfect. And it's one of those kind of things. So our guys were able to find them and meet up with them and move it. But it's just one of those things you don't really think about. So in the middle of all this, during this day, we get another call that we've had another cross-country line break between 2 streets, Lakemont area. And so another giant tree with a big root ball fell over and sent a torrent of water down the hillside. And so you can see the root ball in the image on the right.
Don't fall in that, right?
So one of the things that we learned after the after action review is that access is critical, especially in these situations. That's a lot of water. Our guys were able to get those isolated, this one fairly quickly comparatively to the other one. And then you start to think about, this is kind of the cleanup and repair. And you can see the AC main in the image on the right kind of sticking straight up. So tools are another thing. So some folks have chainsaws on the trucks, but in this situation, we need a heck of chainsaws, and we need some type of equipment that spaces where we need to be, like snowcats or what have you. So when you think about, this is kind of the repair of that one. You can also see the slope of the hill there. What are we moving into? We're moving into wildfire season. And as a team, operations team, we've had these conversations of creating go bags for the different systems, right? So you have go bag with a bunch of out of service rings for fire hydrants. You got black 10 mil tape. You've got garbage bags. You've got a fire hydrant meter. You have maps. You have sandwich boards. You have all of these things that in a fire, we can say, here's this from this service area. Here's that from that service area. Let's go. So we're having these conversations here. Like, this would have been great if we had go bags like, hey, there's one in Copper and we've got extra snowshoes down here. People are looking for snowshoes. Hey, we've got them. Hey, people are looking for chainsaws. Oh, here you go. Here's another go bag. So as we, part of after action is how are we going to, pivot, or how are we going to adjust to what happened? And that's what we're going to do. This is another bullet dodged.
The top of that tree.
Top of a tree falling right next to lift station 2, which is kind of off Pine Drive, kind of near Big Trees Market. So right next to a creek. So if that would have hit the generator and damaged it, lift station spills, we have a compounding issue. We don't not only have an emergency, they're extracting people from homes, but there's sewage all over. So that was another bullet dodged. So on the 19th, this is Thursday, we're able to start to kind of get ahead. Now the focus is let's get access. You've got power lines all over the place. You've got trees everywhere. You're still hiking into places. That's who we need to work with to get access. So when you have the EOC calls or the briefings that we call them, this is one of the topics of conversation. County is, hats off to the county. Because I think, from what I've heard is there's been some criticism of those folks. And I want to say, when you're trying to get feedback from the energy company about whether that line is live or not, you can't plow it. And if you can't get feedback for 4 hours, it's not your fault that it wasn't plowed immediately. There's a giant power line or a pole laying across. So we've had these conversations in these meetings. And I think it's important to highlight that, a liaison, there's a liaison, Will Harris, he's great, work with at PG&E. He needs some support in these kinds of situations so we can move nimbly through those issues. Here's just some images of the trucks, big old, 2.5 ton mechanics truck up at one of the pump stations, getting that generator fueled up. Here's what happens when you're just trying to make a left into Arnold wastewater plant. Tree top falls off and smashes your truck with you in it. Luckily, he was fine. Get a phone call. Hey, tree just hit my truck. I'm gonna leave it here on the side of the road. I'm like, oh no, we're not gonna leave it on the side of the road. I'm like, send me a picture. And so I get the picture. It kind of dawns on us. Like, I think he's in shock. Hey, we need to get him down here. Let's have a conversation. Let's get a tow truck over there. Get this truck down, tow yarded. The impact of the tree branch punctured a hole in the hood into the top of the valve cover, and then also blew the AC HVAC vents out of the dash, like blew them out. And
What was the damage that truck?
well, so right now the estimate was 50,000, and then it went away 2 days ago. The adjuster said 50,000. It went away, so we'll see if that holds.
So if the truck had been,
Right, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Making a left into the waste
Okay.
plant. He's okay. Yeah, he was okay. Little bit, right? So then you can imagine like some of the things that I don't think about until like took me a minute was like, what are you talking? What are you saying? And then I got to stop and I've got to like collect myself and say, okay, I think I understand now what's going on. I look at my phone. Okay, I got you. Yeah. So that was a really, that was a heavy one.
how soon will we? Yeah.
Immediately. So we had folks at the waste plant. So it's literally turning off Highway 4 to the Arnold wastewater treatment plant. Kind of coming up the hills. It's kind of tough. Anyway, not a lot of people on the road, but we had one of the operators was at the gate because these guys were going to come help cut a tree out of the driveway. So the operator was down there working on getting this tree out of the way. These guys came in and helped. Snow has passed. Storm has passed. Now we have clear highway. That is the power going up to Arnold. It's roped together and being roped to trees over Highway 4 so you can get up there. We had to basically get the power off the road so we could get up the hill. And so I would say any wide spot in any road, you had basically a PG&E yard. So this is Pine Brook. You had PG&E yard. Grocery store, PG&E yard. White Pines, PG&E yard. So I will acknowledge they sent a massive crew up there. And then it gets interesting when we're trying to get in to make repairs in the middle of their effort to get in somewhere, make repairs in the middle of the, now here comes the phone company and the county's in there trying to improve access and get trees out of the road. You know, that gets, and then one of the kind of the big creative highlights I'd like to acknowledge Michael on this one is we're having this conversation. We still can't, we lost access to Sawmill Tank, what I was telling you about at the beginning, right? Roger fought all day, got us access. After that, we hadn't been up there in 3 days. Generator's been running the whole time. It pumps full source of supply up the hill. So everybody stranded up on the hilltop. How are we going to get up there? So Michael reached out to NCPA and they said, we have a snowcat. And Roger and some of his team members, Matthew Duncan, jumped in with the NCPA team on that Friday, and they took trip after trip after trip from the White Pines barn up to Sawmill. I think it's like 2 miles one way. What's the better part of that? And spent all day filling that generator up. So hats off to those folks. I mean, that thing is great. Only carried 50 gallons, but hey, you'll take it, right? Yeah. And so that was really cool, that thing in action. We could use a few of those things. You can paint them blue, have like blue flames coming off of them. You know, it'd be pretty cool. And so some of the things you find in the aftermath, right? So this is Big Trees 1, radio telemetry antenna on the left, being overcome by snow and bent over. So this is an issue that this is actually under our insurance. So we have like a small list of items, truck, this, we lost a turbo on a generator. That was another conversation. We lose a turbo. So we have a mechanic that can watch this thing and make sure it doesn't run out of oil. We can still run it. So we would run it for 4 hours, shut her down, and then when we shut it down, we lose the SCADA comms to the site, so the operators can't see what's going on. So then it makes everyone a little nervous, flying blind. Then, okay, let's go turn it back on. And so we did that for about 4 days. Big Trees once. This is just power lines on the side of the road. PG&E put in a pole. There was aftermath issues associated with their work efforts and our water meters, which proved to be challenging. Here's some power lines all over the place, just trees, power lines. That was the theme, right? PG&E in action. So what did we expect to happen? We knew we were going to get some I&I. We knew we were going to get snow. We knew there was going to be power fails, but we didn't realize the magnitude. Like that's always the variable, right? We've put the entire district on standby because of a storm is coming, and we've got nothing. And then we put just the collections crew and two mechanics on standby or an electrician, and we get it handed to us. So that's really one of those challenges. Got a lot of I&I, snow and power failure, but we got a lot. Like trees were another. So the inadequate equipment or lack of equipment was a challenge. Access was the challenge. Another thing that Michael and I have talked about is we have a vehicle fueling system that's pretty comprehensive. It's, you put in your number and you got to put the mileage in, and then you're allowed to fill your truck up. Well, when you're filling at the rate that our guys were filling, and you're filling like any type of container you can to put fuel in it, when it asks you for mileage, you're like 0. Well, that sends a flag to this fueling system. Next thing you know, you're in the middle of a snowstorm and you go to the gas station. And so then administrators have to jump in there and like, how do I let me turn this one back. Okay, restore access, okay, try now, and so there's a lot of that. And that's an easy one we can overcome, but we definitely need to get that one off the list because it's the last emergency was on the list and we felt like we had conquered it, and it's an administrative thing and it's just cumbersome. So we'll clean that one up. Oh, look at this picture.
On that list, on the lack of adequate equipment, thank God we had no injuries.
That's absolutely right.
And I mean, wow. Praise
Absolutely.
God on the last one. But do our teams have the proper equipment for this? I mean, personal protective equipment, they got boots and warms.
The district covers our team members for winter weather gear, foul weather gear, and steel-toed boots. Yep.
Adequate?
Yeah. I mean, I would say so. This picture is great. So we did have some folks that were out of water for a time. I would think a handful, count them on one hand. And so I mean, this is Matt. I think this is like 4 days of work, and the smile on his face. Yeah, and I mean, he's just got a shoulder full of water walking through the snow to somebody's house, and he's got a big old smile on his face.
He's delirious at that point.
Yeah,
He'd lost
yeah, it could be. Yeah, and maybe there's Bud Light on the other side.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Bottle of rum.
Right. So what went well? Teamwork, communication, flexibility, prioritization. That's a huge one because when you have competing disasters, you got to be able to make a call, and you're making a call in like this much time. So hats off to the folks. I mean, fabulous job. Organization, cooperation. You know, not feeling like you have to walk into the room with all of the different, you know, utilities and IOUs, and feel like you got to make some call, and you be nimble and you have to work together. That's people's, you know, as you can imagine in these kinds of situations, as you guys know, people's, you know, their stress is high, their tolerance is low. So you're going to end up with people that are short or a little frustrated, stressed out. So our guys, it was great. Transitioning of the team, like we talked about, cross training, we need to improve that. Access, right? That was a challenge. And we talked about tools and go bags. I think I highlight, yeah, what can we do to improve future outcomes? Cross training, checklists, seasonal check-ins. We do that for safety. We say, hey, winter time's coming. This is what we should do. But we're going to enhance that and do that for work. Okay, so do we have our go bag? Do we have the things that we need if we get a big old snowstorm and the trees are full of sap? Do we have, you know, like we'll run through scenarios. And best practices. It's always nice when you think about not all of us are going to be here forever. So it's nice to have a checklist. I always think of like a laminated sheet of best practices. Past tabletops help. That. Wow.
Wow, Damon, let me start on behalf of the board, thanking you and all the team, Bill, everybody who was out there just busting their butt. What I hear, there's some extraordinary heroic actions by our team, and really proud of how everybody acted. So
thank you.
Express my gratitude to men and women who really busted their butts to make this work. Thank you.
I have a question about that water break that occurred on the person's property. Have they got their bill?
Leak adjustment policy.
That's on our side.
Yeah. They're lucky. When we told them, hey, are you guys going to? Like, no, you got the check.
I'd like to say the same thing, Jack's words to amplify those as well. And thank you to our entire crew. Thank you to you guys here, everyone online. You recognize me there. I had heard. I just happened to be flying to San Diego on the 18th. I missed the whole thing.
Oh, lucky man.
I was down there for a conference, but I heard a lot from people who were back here in the county, and from Michael gave me an update during the middle of that thing. But thank you very, very much for all your hard work and dedication.
I'll relay that to folks that aren't on the call.
For sure.
On that generator that, why don't they have a?
That's a great question. Some sites they do. That one surprised the heck out of me. I'm not sure why that was that way, because
We might just mention to them that we
So-
have a lease.
I think it might be a new mandate for new tower construction, but we have towers, we have sites where they've been leasing for years where it wasn't a mandate before, if it is, it is now. So some of them have generators, some of them don't. When the PSPS events started happening, that's when the state started getting more and more concerned about that, because we lost a lot of coverage during those events. And so I think the requirements have ratcheted up, but there's still a lot of them that don't have.
I wonder if it's for lease. I mean, I don't know that there needs to be two generators there.
One that they installed it.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to have a minimum amount of backup runtime at this point, but that wasn't always a requirement.
Yep, Jessica.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break.
Well, I mean, we didn't have maybe we
A
have
reopener?
generated capacity for them.
Right.
Right.
No,
Mhm.
maybe we consider that. Oh, I mean,
Yeah, and if I could, just a couple of other, I mean, just to echo, you know, our crews were phenomenal to get us through this, and the work it took, and the effort and the dedication and the skill is just off the charts. And then a few other items that, you know, as Damon mentioned, ongoing discussions with county partners. I think Damon's point, you know, Public Works getting black eye for people being stuck in their homes, but there's only so much you can do with the tools that you have when you have down power lines everywhere. And the coordination among the local agencies, I think for the most part was good. We had a discussion with the GM up at Blue Lake Springs Mutual Water Company. They needed to be brought into the loop more and earlier, I think, because they're right in the middle of all this.
That's right.
And so there's some additional coordination that needs to happen there. There's definitely some improvement that could happen with PG&E, and then I think pre-planning needs to happen where we're we have maps in advance of where the critical infrastructure is, which also our guys learned happens to be where a lot of people are trying to evacuate from, or rescues, or the fire department's trying to rescue people from. You know, prioritizing those routes where there's critical infrastructure, I think helps everybody. And if we prioritize that in advance, I think it might go a lot smoother, and advertise that to the community where those routes are going to be. And then, some equipment, whether it's snowcat and maybe some share of that, because I think that's something that a tool that would benefit a lot of the local agencies up there. I mean, I've never seen Chief Johnson so exhausted in our collaborator meetings. There, I think there was one day they did over 100 rescues. Just it happened to be a ski week. A lot of people from out of the area on vacation and just, renting homes that weren't prepared for this, calling the fire department to get them out.
Did we help with any evacuations?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, and kind of guidance too, like, hey, you know, there's a team right around the corner from the place here. Right? Conversation. You get out of here.
What did Tyler say? This was PG&E considered the third worst storm hit the foothills, or
Something along those lines, yeah. And it was just this band from like 3,500 to 4,500 feet that just got pummeled. Because we were in a meeting with Forest Service this morning, and they said, you know, clearing Spicer, not very many trees down.
Wow.
It was just this mid elevation band of where the trees might have already, you know, filled up with water, and it's got hammered. So this one though went through something similar in 2022. This worse, and so I think a lot of lessons learned. We're still, you know, the county's Office of Emergency Services is evolving, so we're still working through that. Captain Sturm did, I think, a phenomenal job overall, but the structure is changing. So there's definitely some more discussions to have with the county.
And then finally, I just want to highlight, CASA wrote an article in consideration of the advanced clean challenges, and they're featuring our issues, the issue photographs for the Water Environment Federation magazine for the state. So this will be coming out here soon. So
really
timely.
Working that
Yeah, got to work.
Excellent work, Damon, and thank you. Thanks to crew again, and Michael,
Yeah.
thank you for keeping the board informed as this went forward. Hopefully we stayed out of everybody's bowl. Cheerios.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
you guys were
thank
able
you,
to do
Damon, and,
your job.
I saw Jerry this morning at NCPA, and he mentioned not only were they happy to provide the snowcat, but apparently they enjoyed meeting our guys that were working with them over the course of that day. So Roger, thank you for being on your best behavior.
Very well. Thank you very much. We are going to take a 5-minute break. Welcome back to the Calaveras County Water District Board meeting. We are on item 5C, discussion action regarding adoption of 5-year capital improvement plan. Kevin, I think this is your last item.
So this year we did a 5-year CIP. In the past several years, or since I've been here, it's always been a 3-year, but we're looking to kind of extend the outlook because these projects we have a lot of big projects on the outlook, and thought it'd be important to kind of do a 5-year. So the purpose of this meeting today is to adopt the CIP. It's going to guide our infrastructure investments over the next 5 years. Kind of some of the key points. This was reviewed by the engineering committee, went in detail on every project that we had on the list and kind of explained the scope of the work and the cost estimate. And both of our directors that are on the board recommended that we bring this CIP to the full board for adoption. So when we look at projects for the CIP, we focus on aging infrastructure that needs to be replaced, capacity improvements that need to happen, water system reliability and storage, and regulatory compliance. Many of the projects that we have on the CIP are already at the point where they're at failure, and there's an immediate need to make replacements or improvements. We made some strong progress in the last several years with some of these private placement loans, grant-funded projects that really made an impact on our infrastructure. It's been on the books to be replaced for many years. However, there's a lot of critical projects that still need to be done. A lot of infrastructure out there is failing. It's been not neglected, but it's been kind of past its useful life. So in our CIP plan, the next 2 fiscal years are fully funded. Most of the projects are through the private placement loans, the USDA loans, or grant-funded projects over the next 2 years while we're building up our reserves. And then the next 3 years, we don't have the rate study or the rate plan for what we're spending on year 3, 4, and 5. So we didn't identify the funding sources. All we could really look at is the minimum that the board's approved, which I think is about $3.4 million for CIP. And over the last number of years, we've exceeded that. But that's just the floor. So looking past year 3, 4, and 5, we didn't identify what the funding sources are for those projects. So a lot of these projects depend on grant funding, financing, and prioritization of the projects. We're also kind of looking globally, looking past that 5 years, that 10, 20-year outlook, looking at transitioning to a more proactive asset management program. Right now, we've done a really good job of working with operations, and evaluating projects that have been on our master planning documents for many years, or have been areas that have been failing, and prioritizing the projects. But we're looking to be more proactive and not reactive. But with the limited budget we have, sometimes that's be difficult. So you need to look out past that 5-year time frame. So that's something we've been talking to consultants on, what we, best path forward. They have recommendations on what other people have done. So, like I said, we've been seeing improvements on the projects that we've had, the big pipeline projects, the water treatment plant projects we've had, and the tank storage projects we've had. So in your packet, there's the kind of breakdown of the capital improvement plan for both the water and sewer. So I can go through the projects if that's what you like, or I can kind of just go through the projects that we're working on right now and the ones we're starting next year.
Let's see, Kevin, I watched your presentation to the engineering committee. It was very thorough. Compliments to the engineering committee. Nice job. Questions from the board? How do you guys want to dig through the CIP? Have an opinion? Kevin says the long way or the short way, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I can go through every project in detail. I mean, we spent a couple hours at the engineering committee going through every project, and I appreciate, Russ's and Jeff's patience going through that process. But I was just I can kind of go through kind of a brief overview of what we have on the horizon.
Yeah, brief overview.
What's that?
Jeff wants a brief
Yeah,
one.
And then if you have any questions on particular projects that maybe are in your area or that you're interested in, we can ask about those.
I guess from a prioritized perspective, you're doing the most important ones first, or there's some kind of grant funding or something that allows them to proceed. And that's kind of my overall question. There was, when it got down, where is it? In the finance area. Let's see how they'll be funded, combination private placement loans, capacity fields, grants, restricted funds, future rate adjustments. So that one, I mean, I know what we have for recommended potential rate adjustments, but a little hard to understand a prioritized list that might keep costs, rate adjustments, at least for the near future, at kind of CPI, and no higher, rather than what would be the maximum recommended that we have from the rate adjustment survey. That would be my only comment. I thought, if you had to put one back a year.
Well, we did make, during the engineering committee, we kind of moved La Contenta back a year from what we had, because right now we're going after a Clean Water State Revolving Fund, working with VSPUD, coordination with them, and kind of the time frame Michael brought up, the time frame on some of these other projects, getting those funds like West Point, Willseyville, same grant funding source. It took multiple years, so we were trying to be more realistic and push that one back a little bit further, even though we're riding that fine line of not being able to keep up. And then we have more developments coming, and then we also kind of accelerated 2 and 3. What kind of happened with this winter storm that we saw there in Arnold. These lift stations are in very poor shape, so we're trying to move those ahead a little bit. And kind of try to even out the cost of projects per year. And a lot of these, the bottom line that you see there, a lot of those have grant components built into them, so it's not all just district funds that are used for these projects. We're trying to maximize the funds available by shares from federal agencies and state agencies.
And if I could jump in here too, and first of all, I just want to applaud Kevin for going out further, 5 years. I think he's an improvement for us, and then we're also doing some other work to try to as we mentioned in the staff report, as we move forward, improve our CIP development and asset management. I think the variance column that you added this year is really instructive, especially as we look further out at what's funded and what isn't funded. And so for these first 2 years that we're looking at, or I guess the next 2 years, the next 2 fiscal years, those projects are funded either, a lot of it through the loans that we've taken out already, or partial grant funding, or whatever the different sources of funding that we have. We've already essentially funded those projects for the next 2 years. And then going beyond that, though, you'll see some funding shortfalls that we still need to figure out how we address between now, over the next couple of years. But as we go into budget development, or we're in budget development for the next fiscal year, the board still has that opportunity to review necessary rate increases, and what the appropriate amount of a rate increase would be. This just helps us. We try to put CIP first in the budget development process, so that we have a pretty big piece of it stabilized, and then we build the rest of the budget and bring that back to the board in the coming months.
I bet there's a lot more things we need to do that are even on this
Yeah,
list.
this is, we have another list that has a lot more items on it. This is just the stuff that's already, some of the stuff like Vallecito's talked about 20 years ago, and it's still a problem. So, and we heard the stories about the I&I this morning from Damon, the pipes are just fully integrated. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen, and it's only going to get more expensive the further we delay it. Try to prioritize and spend a lot of time meeting and going through these different projects with operations staff, and say, well, maybe that one's not as critical as this one. Move it up, and The other ones that are off the 5-year, equally critical, but they're not emergency situations. They,
Other questions?
Kevin, at our engineering committee meeting, we talked quite a lot about the pipe or the sewer pipeline, the proposed pipeline from 6 Mile to the Vallecito Force Main. We didn't talk about easements, do we? And you talked about the necessity to make this improvement instead of sending the effluent down to camp for processing, that you want to push it up to the Vallecito plant. But do we have easements to do that?
well, there's a public right of way along Highway 4 that we could put, there's other utilities in there right now. So it should be that we could be in the same utilities with, AT&T, just put a fiber optic line along Highway 4. We should be able to utilize that area.
Well, in lieu of spending 2 hours again on this, what does our engineering committee have to say about their 2 hours spent on this? Do you have any comments, things we should be aware of that you gained from all that? Or did you pay attention?
Well,
to
I've paid attention, but I wanted to,
Work. Stuff.
Right.
stuff to do, but I wanted to respond to Director Robertson's comments about future rate adjustments. I mean, we often, when we see that phrase, we often focus our attention on ratepayer rate adjustments, but we did a significant step today on the sewer connection fees for future projects or future sewer connections. So let's not forget about that. We're not
all of us.
Well, it won't be, but there's going to be a component as we move forward, like we move forward today, to recognize that CIP improvements in the future need to be funded by people that are going to be doing those improvements rather than existing ratepayers. That was telegraphed very succinctly, I thought.
Yeah, there's a number of expansion funds identified on the CIP. That's money that we've already collected. Developers and new connections.
I'm not seeing more questions.
Wait, I haven't.
Sorry, go ahead.
Russ said he was going to take Jeff's question first. I'm assuming he's going to take the question second.
You want me to specifically list all the items that I appreciated this list, or what?
They're the ones you didn't appreciate. And I wanted to hear from you about where the staple is.
I was going to mention that. Well, I especially appreciate all the projects that are forthcoming in Copperopolis area. Foremost of time.
Well, what I got out of the whole conversation was, I mean, staff has gone through all of our projects. This is their priority list. These are things that they think we have to fix. So I mean, I didn't see anything on here that I thought was frivolous or anything like that. It's a lot of old stuff in the county. I think we do an excellent job of trying to tackle this small ratepayer base that we have. Really pretty remarkable that much as we do. I'd always like to see our capital outlay compared to the other adjacent districts. They're spending the capita, the amount, how much we're getting in grants. Let's just see how we stack up.
I appreciate.
Well, I mean, I just think, I mean, you look at some of the smaller utilities that they're not doing anything. They're not making any improvements. Their facilities are just getting older and older. That's going to be a big issue. Well, nobody likes to spend all this money, but I haven't seen anything, on here that I didn't think staff would recommend for the fun of it.
We don't spend it now, we'll spend more later.
All right, you got any question?
Yeah, Kevin, you said earlier that there was a La Contenta project that was bumped from.
Yeah, the Biolac and Huckleberry, because the grant outlook timeframe, we had it on kind of going into construction in 28, 29. And now we're going into construction. We'll do some, award the contract in 28, 29, get the mobilization done, and then start in really 29, 20.
Could that be paid for with the capacity?
Yes, we're planning on paying, if we don't get the grant, we'll be paying with capacity fees.
And what's our time frame on, you said you'd probably know if you weren't gonna get it, at least by that time? And not get the money.
Yeah, so there's, yes, if we don't get the money, we'll, the, obviously the capacity fees aren't gonna be enough to pay for the whole project, and
And if we do get that whole rate fee that we adopted today could go away.
We'll revisit.
Significantly different.
But it would be different. We would revisit that absolutely if we're able to bring in grant funds for that.
Okay, now my next question is on grants. Grants that are proposed, in do wastewater first.
yeah,
Grants
so
that are there's nothing in 26, 27 or 27, 28, but in 28, 29, are those proposals or ideas or?
So we talked about a lot of these projects on here we listed those in the engineering committee. I wish I had that sheet with me right now, but the Arnold secondary clarifier is it's a long-term grant, it's 40 years, so a loan. So it's essentially a grant that we're being subsidized by the federal government on this long-term loan. Arnold lift station 2 and 3, we submitted a grant application before to FEMA for lift station 2, rejected. I don't think there's any. That was our last chance. We don't think there's anything that we can get there. The Sequoia Woods Mountain Retreat Force Main, that we have money for the design. That's a consolidation project. There's funding sources available for consolidation. So that, and we're looking at potential, we're working on the Arnold Sewer Master Plan right now. It's going to evaluate that options. Forest Meadows Pump Station, Sprayfield, there's no money available for that. The Copper Cove Staff Tertiary, this is just our in-kind contribution. So that's our $4.2 million that we owe. This is a grant from U.S. Army Corps, and they're contributing the $13.28 million on top of that. So that is already a grant. Lower upper cross country.
I was thinking another.
Yeah, 3.1 billion. And then the upper lower cross country probably not eligible. The lift station rehabs aren't eligible. The Biolac, Huckleberry, those we're actively working on a grant application right now. Those. Southworth is expansion funds. West Point's expansion funds. 6 Mile of Vallecito is a potential grant because it's a consolidation project. So we'll be looking at that options. Collection system, I&I, or collection system rehab. That's probably not a grant. There might be some money coming about for I&I improvements and that type of stuff that we could potentially, but it's unlikely.
But just on the West Point, Wilsonville, when you got to 6 Mile to Vallecito, it says grant on the description, but over in the grant column, no dollar amount. But on the other ones, there is a dollar amount.
So we have a couple different projects that could fall under that, the consolidation grants that the Clean Water State Revolving has available.
Right.
And they actually one of the few grants that they've had a surplus of money that they haven't been able to award the past few years. So, but we just got one at West Point, Wilseyville. Then we got the Sequoia Woods Mountain Retreat that could be a possible consolidation. And we have the Vallecito 6 Mile Force Main that could be a consolidation. So we really need to pick the best path forward because they don't like to see multiple different applications for projects. So yeah,
From the same district, different projects.
Yeah, they really look at your history of what you've got in the past. We'll definitely look at what the options are. Like the Vallecito Force Main, that's right now we pump the sewage to City of Angels Camp through a 2.5-inch line that falls down Highway 4 along Angels Creek. And we pay them an amount of money every year to treat our sewage. That line's failing. We've had leaks on in the past. It's bad. That's definitely a critical project. That's the one that Russ was asking earlier about. Maintenance, and we go up Highway 4 to our system in Dallas.
One of the, during the engineering committee, Director Thomas brought this up, but I think it's a really good idea. We should, as we build these, keep your eye open for revenue generating opportunities. You had mentioned a small hydro for the Hogan straw. No, that's not what it's called, but I'm calling it today.
Yeah.
And, just really keep thinking about where we could do inline things. And obviously it's got to make economic sense, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
just
we've
need to
actually-
figure out how we could stretch and build revenue where we can.
Yeah, we've looked into that, a couple of facilities, and the grants are usually like 50-50.
Mhm.
But the upfront cost on those is way more than we'd ever, because our power costs are so low because we're on CP. And it hasn't been able to pencil out, but we'll definitely keep our eyes on that though for any opportunities we have.
I appreciate that. The questions from the board? This is, yes?
No.
This is an action item. Is there any public comment on this? Ralph? Ralph?
Okay, good afternoon, members of the board. Ralph Copeland, Copperopolis. As we review item 5C, the adoption of the new 5-year capital improvement program, we are looking at a projected $26 million in infrastructure spending in the 26-27 fiscal year. While these projects are necessary, the combined pressure of scheduled rate increases and rising operational costs means that compliance is no longer a sufficient metric for success. We need to see efficiency, ROI, return on investment. I am submitting 3 specific questions for the record today. First, on the Arnold wastewater treatment plant, we are spending $5.7 million next year on a new clarifier and aeration. What is the specific modeled reduction in energy intensity? Modern systems should drop electricity use by 20% or more. Has the district quantified that return to offset our debt? Second, unlock Contenta with a $15 million price tag for biolac and UV upgrades. What is the break-even point? When do the savings in chemicals and labor hours actually start paying back the ratepayers and developers who are funding this? Third, on the leaky bucket, Kevin mentioned. By the way, Kevin, thank you. We are spending millions to expand plant capacity. This is a heavily wastewater leaning budget. Yet our collection rehab budget is only $150,000. Has the district done the math to prove that building a bigger plant is more cost effective than simply fixing the leaky pipes that let rainwater into the sewer in the first place? We don't just want new facilities, we want efficient facilities. I'm asking the board to commit to an efficiency scoreboard for these 2027 projects. Don't just tell us the project is finished, tell us how much it is saving us in energy, chemicals, and emergency repairs. Thank you for your time and including these questions in the official record.
Is there other public comment in the room? Public comment online? None? I'll bring this back to the board. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries 5-0. Thank you. Move on to item 6, report. Michael.
Wrapped up faster than anticipated. on my game here. A couple committee meetings in the last few weeks. Our first external relations committee in a long time this week, and I thought it went really well. Appreciate all the work Kelly put into that to inviting some external partners and developing that agenda. And I think we're off to a good start reestablishing the external relations committee. Engineering committee met twice this month, so appreciate the extra effort that went into that, in large part because of this capital improvement program. We had a full agenda for the first one already, and I think we benefited from the extra time in developing the CIP that was presented to the board today. A lot going on in engineering, and then also a finance committee meeting where we rolled out a new format for our finance reports. Appreciate the work Kelly and our friends at Ide Bailey did on that, because I think there's a significant improvement there, and that we still have some adjustments and some tweaks that we can make to make it better, but I think it's going in the right direction. I mentioned the meeting with Forest Service and NCPA today. That is an annual meeting, check-in with licensees and the Forest Service. For our project, not all hydropower projects are so closely tied to the Forest Service, but for the North Fork Stanislaus project, most of the land in the project is in Forest Service, is in national forest. So it's just a crucial relationship. There's a lot of work, a lot of collaboration that goes on between the licensees and the Forest Service. So it's part of an annual check-in, but there's a lot of work that happens over the course of the year too. So, but no major, red flags to report, and a positive collaboration. New city administrator for the City of Angels Camp, Mike. I'm getting on his last name, Mike Hodson. I was at the meeting last week when I was there for the item on the MOU. But it was also the meeting when they appointed him, and so I got to talk to him and his wife, and they've already bought a house in the county, and they're relocating, and sound really committed to Angels Camp in Calaveras County. Really interesting background, brings a lot of experience to the city, so I'm really optimistic about that collaboration going forward. And then the one I'll spend a little bit more time on, spent a work week in DC with Director Ratterman and Director Davidson, and of course with Mia, and as usual with Mia, a series of really productive meetings. And I would say the common theme across a lot of those meetings is streamlining. Probably the buzzword that is not overused. I welcome it, but it is a popular buzzword in federal circles these days, and it could really have some direct benefits for us. So we engaged in discussions with the staff from California senators and our representatives that we work with regularly on FERC streamlining, relicensing reform, and what our priorities are that we want to see in relicensing reform, and then also with the Army Corps of Engineers and what we really hope for our reforms to the Section 219 program, and can't come soon enough. And really I'm optimistic that the Corps has rolled out a program. The new Assistant Secretary of the Army calls his initiative Building Infrastructure, Not Paperwork. So every good initiative needs a catchy title. So we're off to a good start with that one. But it really is a core effort to look at how they can streamline projects and direct more resources towards construction rather than administration. And I think we could be a case study for where there is plenty of room for improvement on that front. The years that we've spent in the core bureaucracy can be maddening at times. While we're grateful for the folks that we work with there and for the funding they're providing, there's definitely room for improvement. So there's some positive movement on that front. And in particular, specific to our project, not necessarily a regulatory change, but we were notified a few months ago of a $2 million increase in the Corps' budget for administration of our project, which comes out of the project budget. And that was an increase from originally, I think it was around 750,000 up to 2.7 million, which is a huge hit to the funds available for actual construction. And really positive response from the Assistant Secretary of the Army's office. And when they learned about that, and so we don't have any follow up on it just yet, but we're really optimistic that some of that money redirected back to infrastructure rather than administration. So that meeting in and of itself, I think, is reason why we do these things. There's a lot that we learn in these discussions, and then oftentimes we're the ones educating folks that administer these programs, how they play out on the ground for non-federal sponsors like we are. I think it's really important for them to get the perspective that they hear from us, which is they don't always get. So, and then over the years, we've built relationships with these folks, so they're familiar with the project. They're familiar with the challenges that we're facing, so that when we get additional obstacles put in front of us, it's frustrating for them. Can't say enough about Mia and how her persistence in making sure that our representatives and those agency staff members, she's just great at identifying who those key people are and keeping them aware of what our issues are. All in all, very productive week. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Board reports. Down the line.
I've
Yep.
got a couple of things. I'd just like to second what our general manager said about the external relations. A very good meeting. I too thank Kelly, well organized. One of the highlights was the member of a presentation by Jessica and some fire department, Dana Nichols and Wayne. I don't recall the other day, but I actually think that a slightly briefer presentation on that would be well for the board to hear. Found it very interesting. California Special District. Seeing ways that we could collaborate with some of the other special districts with each other is a very valuable presentation. That's a recommendation. And finally, I'd like to ask you what else we could do about the sound fix. I think it was a very legitimate complaint we heard, Francisco. I noticed that this may be on the opposite end, but in external relations, we have a speaker, and that's it.
I'd like to echo Director Robertson's comments about the external relations, and Kelly's. Thank you very much for getting that back on track. And hopefully we got a next meeting planned already. We did hear from CSDA. Their entire board was here for the new California chapter. They're meeting again here in this room. If you guys want to put it on your calendar to hear what they have, I'm planning on being here on April 15th at 1:30. CSBA will echo Michael's comments about our successful DC trips. Mia is awesome, well organized, just boom, 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 boom. It was a nice, we went to a hydro conference also that was taking place the same week, I think, and planned around that to be both of those. So did some work things as well while we were out there. Got back last week. The California Wildfire Forest Resilience Task Force. It's an annual meeting held in Jamestown at Chicken Ranch Casino. Mountain Counties co-hosted it with Sierra Nevada Conservancy. And it was very, very well run. Wade Crowfoot kind of kept everyone on track. National Resource Secretary did a very good job. Very, very broad topics. A lot was covered. that was a nice, actually, I don't know, I don't think it has anything to do with Mountain counties being involved, but it was the largest gathering that they've ever had. More people came. We did run the registration, but that's the kudos to Justin for doing that. And there was more people online than there ever has been before. Over 500 in the room, 400 people online. Sponsorship was way more than it had ever been before. It was an event. A lot going on there. Lastly, Mountain Counties is having our Calaveras County CCWD hosted reception, a roundtable in Murphy's. Thank you, Michael, for working with Justin and helping put that together. Our meeting will also be the following morning, and already have thanked Jessica for loaning us her building at UPUD, where the Mountain County's meeting will take place on Friday morning, the 10th. It's time to register. I think registration just came out the last couple of days for the 9th roundtable, which is more a high-level discussion on dam safety. It's designed for general managers and an upper echelon of leaders, but the reception is for everybody. Our own Damon Wyckoff will be on the microphone and have a guitar in his hand, providing music for the event. Really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just say a little bit about the DC visit. I mean, it's always interesting to get in a room with people from all around the country and listen about the increasing demand of hydro, for just the demand for power in general. Really makes us realize what a great asset we have, how badly it is needed. There was we did that. We had a lot of talk about relicense reform with not just at the hydro conference, but with our legislators. It was really, I mean, it wasn't like we were pushing the subject as much as hearing from them, but they were really trying to make an effort in Congress to do some license reform. So hopefully that'll work out. The meetings with the Corps at the Pentagon was terrific. I mean, it really seemed like we had an advocate for our project there, particularly trying to get the reduction of the extra $2 million in project management fees. That would have brought that up to about a 25% project management fee project, which is pretty ridiculous. But also, I mean, there was significant talk about perhaps the way the Corps is handling the 219 projects, making Corps build them. That may just be policy, not law. And so there's some talk about maybe even changing that in word, or perhaps at least looking into it to say, okay, an agency like us that is capable can manage their own project, build their own product first. So I really think it was just positive all around, and we did have a good mix of meetings really well. So I'm thankful I was able to do that. That's it.
Okay, I also, along with Director Ratterman, attended the and I hesitate to say the casino because that was a very small part of it. It was the in addition to enjoying that meeting, I celebrated my birthday there with a nice restaurant stuff. But some of my takeaways from that meeting, there was a significant amount of focus on the successes of our neighboring county, Tuolumne County, and all of the work that they've done with the care organizations. They're working with the environmentalists and with the timber industry. That they have carved out a name for themselves that was recognized.
I think, yeah, definitely. They were highlighted, a lot of the stuff that they're doing. The fact that they have timber mills and biomass production in their county. They're leaps and bounds ahead of most other counties. think that's what they were really trying to highlight, that this is like a perfect, they talked about things, um, how much timber production we used to have, how many lumber mills we used to have, how many we have now, and being part of the problem. Even environmentalists have been previously talking about, no, not taking anything out of the forest. If it falls, let it stay. It's habitat. If it burns, let it stay. It's habitat. That all has changed in the lumber industry. There was another industry that talked about making poles for agricultural trees, making out of the smaller trees that usually just burned and thrown away. There's also that. They're also talking about expanding. I think to all.
Well, they already did. The company name is Heartwood. Built a very large facility there on Ernestbury Road. I've driven past it for the last year and a half or so. Saw the construction. Interestingly, they're a company that is from Oregon, and they're doing extremely well up there. And they looked carefully at California where they could put it, and they decided, because of Tuolumne County's success and the availability of loggers and transportation infrastructure, that was the right place to put it. They talked a lot about jobs that they're creating and year-round jobs, and jobs have some future for the people that they're trying to attract. So anyway, I really enjoyed attending. Another thing that was sort of refreshing was that there was one fellow that was talking about insurance and how really you need to attack this problem of the availability of insurance on homes in our area. Now we need to get more credit and more reasonable rates applied when owners of properties make a concerted effort to harden their structures. Speaking from my own experience, it doesn't seem to matter. Built a house that's it's fireproof almost, and hard to get insurance at an affordable rate. So
They might have seen smoke from candles. Birthday cake.
I think they call it, Cal Fire showed up.
Wait, I thought I thought we were gonna get through one meeting without some. I get thrown under the bus more often now. But,
fake self.
well, I have to admit that it occurred to me that you think of things in this area that, that's 100 years old. That building's 100 years old, and I'm 83% of 100 years old. So that's I'm almost historic. So or whatever.
We need a special permit to demolish your.
Kevin, on future agenda items, please don't delay too long to bring back the in-depth discussion on that demand table. I think there's some work that we need to do on that. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. I also attended the wildfire meeting. I think I have a different take. A lot of the board on this. I've been going to these and similar meetings since the Butte fire. So we're pretty far into this, and we keep talking about all these same problems. And none of this was new. We know woody biomass utilization, cogen plants, laminated wood buildings. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And sitting there and watching these same people talk about the same problem. And there are a few successes, like the company we had mentioned in Tuolumne. But I mean, what about our project up in West Point? That is exactly what all the talking heads were talking about that they wanted. Here it is, ready to go. If nobody puts their thumb on the scale from the state, help us get this done. And there are projects like that all up and down the Sierra. So, honestly, after a decade of listening to this, I'm just frustrated. Like, don't borrow my watch and tell me the time. Let's do something.
Umbra was crazy.
UMRA's getting it done. But you know, they're moving fast. You have to go through the process with CPUC or something. That is a governor appointed board. They should be able to help us get our projects done. So I think it's great. I'm excited that everybody's excited about it, but I'd really like to see something come from these people. That means that the state is going to have to make a commitment. They really want to really help subsidize this. It's tough. So I was glad I was there. I was super glad that we were a part of it. And I was proud of our participation in Mountain Counties. But I'm also very frustrated that we're not getting things done that are obvious need to happen. So that's my rant. Anyway, seeing nothing else, we'll move on from that. And our next board meeting is going to be on April 8th. Director Radman is going to cover for me. I'll be out of town. And meeting after that's April 22nd. If there's nothing else, then we will go into closed session and return at the end of the closed session to close out the meeting. Oh, thank you. That's public comment. Would you like? Yes, on closed session. Thank you. Yes. Hey, Jeff. That's all right, Ralph. I skipped a step.
Copeland Copperopolis, regarding the union contract. To get your pencil out for the new board members, you're probably aware of the financial incentives the union members. They receive anywhere from $1,800 to $4,200 annually for certifications. CCWD also provides up to $2,500 per fiscal year to help union employees pay for tuition, books, and testing fees associated with these professional certifications. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with bettering your employee base, nothing whatsoever. I am definitely one who knows and appreciates the work done in the field. 35 years, I saw it, I lived it. We just saw their hard work during the storms. But the reality is Social Security provided me with a 2.8% raise. The current cost of living increase is 2.4. And my understanding is CCWD non-union management has received a 2% raise. My recommendation for your closed door session discussions is a 2 to 3% increase, similar to CCWD management and yours truly. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Good meeting.
Appreciate you being here.
Kevin.
Thank you.